The Zyvaran warlord, General Xel'Vok, sat on his throne of bone and metal, taloned fingers drumming against the armrest. His species had spent centuries conquering planets, breaking civilizations under their iron rule, and yet here he was, forced to entertain a delegation of humans. Weak, fleshy things with their tiny teeth and their absurdly expressive faces. He found them amusing. "You do not understand the power you face," Xel'Vok purred, his mandibles clicking. "I could end this negotiation right now. I could release the VR call into your midst, and in seconds, your kind would be nothing but a red smear on the floor." The humans did not run screaming. They did not beg. They merely exchanged looks. One of them, a woman with dark hair tied in a messy bun and an expression that suggested she had seen far worse than him before her morning coffee, sighed. Right? Another alien warlord with a superiority complex. Fantastic. That's the third one this year. Her companion, a man who looked like he had spent too much time in a lab and not enough time in a gym, adjusted his glasses. Technically, Evelyn, the last one was more of a tyrant than a warlord. "Tom, does this look like the time for technicalities?" Xel'Vok narrowed his eyes. These humans were either incredibly stupid or profoundly unconcerned with their impending deaths. He gestured to the massive steel doors at the side of the chamber. They slid open with a deep, ominous groan. From the darkness emerged the VR call. The chamber fell silent. Even the Zyvaran warriors, brutal and battle-hardened, took a half-step back. It was a monster, nearly 4 meters tall. Its obsidian black fur shimmered under the cold, artificial lights, each movement rippling with barely restrained power. Its eyes burned red, and when it opened its maw, rows of jagged teeth gleamed like serrated blades. The air grew thick with the scent of something ancient, something predatory. The humans did not scream. The beast snarled, stepping forward with a bone-rattling growl, claws scraping deep into the metal floor. Evelyn tilted her head. "Huh?" Tom squinted. That's just a big dog." Xel'Vok nearly choked on his own spit. The chamber, which moments ago had been a stage for terror, now felt off. The Zyvarans stood in stiff anticipation of screams and panic. Yet the humans did nothing. The VR call prowled forward, shoulders rolling with the predatory grace of a creature that had never met an equal. Evelyn crossed her arms. "Oh, don't give me that look. You're just showing off now." The beast let out an ear-splitting roar. Evelyn sighed. "Oh, please. My neighbor's husky is more dramatic than you." The Zyvarans collectively stopped breathing. Xel'Vok's claws dug into his throne. "You mock the VR call?" Tom, who had pulled out a notepad, muttered. "Do you think its vocalization is a form of territorial assertion or an intimidation display? Because if it's the latter, it's wildly ineffective on humans who've been to New Jersey." Evelyn stepped forward. Xel'Vok leaned forward in anticipation. Finally, the moment the human's bravado collapsed, the VR call tensed, its enormous muscles coiling, its crimson eyes locked onto her. It was about to lunge. Evelyn didn't flinch. Instead, she crouched slightly, tilting her chin down, holding her arms loosely at her sides. The beast stopped. Its ears twitched. Xel'Vok's mandibles parted in disbelief. The beast, his most feared weapon, hesitated. "That's right," Evelyn murmured. "You're not the only one who speaks dog, big guy." The chamber was deathly still. The VR call let out a low, confused rumble, stepping forward, its hulking form casting a massive shadow over Evelyn. Its head loomed inches from her, hot breath washing over her face. Xel'Vok smirked, waiting for the inevitable scream. Instead, Evelyn reached out, slowly, carefully, and scratched behind the beast's massive ear. The VR call froze. And then, with a sound no Zyvaran had ever heard from the beast before, it let out a deep, satisfied woof and sat down. The Zyvaran warlord's eyes bulged. His elite warriors looked as though their entire worldview had just shattered. Tom adjusted his glasses. "I think you just tamed it." Evelyn gave the beast one last pat on its massive head before standing. She turned to Xel'Vok, brushing imaginary dust off her jacket. "You were saying?" The warlord's jaw worked, but no words came out. One of his warriors cleared their throat hesitantly. "General, should we?" "Silence." Xel'Vok snapped, rising to his feet. His talons clicked against the metal of his throne. His pride was a wounded animal, lashing out. This proves nothing." Evelyn raised a brow. "Really? Because it kind of looks like it proves that your species is so bad at understanding pack dynamics that you've been bullying these guys into obedience instead of actually leading them." Xel'Vok hissed. The VR call turned its massive head and rumbled in warning. Evelyn smirked. "See? Even he thinks I have a point." The chamber, once filled with the expectation of bloodshed, now held an entirely different energy. One where a human, of all things, stood unharmed beside the deadliest beast in the Zyvaran Empire. And it had just bowed to her. Xel'Vok's hands clenched into fists. This was not over. Xel'Vok's mandibles twitched, his pride bleeding out on the chamber floor like a gut-shot soldier. His most fearsome beast, his empire's apex predator, had just bowed to a human. A soft, fragile, utterly insignificant human. This could not stand. Asterisk again, asterisk. He growled, voice edged with barely contained fury. The VR call, still seated obediently beside Evelyn Carter, flicked an ear but didn't move. Evelyn crossed her arms, tilting her head in mock concern. "What exactly do you want him to do? Attack me? Because, She gestured vaguely at the mountain of fur and muscle that was now sniffing curiously at the hem of her jacket. "I hate to break it to you, but I think he's over it." Xel'Vok refused to believe it. The VR call was the product of thousands of years of selective breeding and genetic enhancements. It knew nothing but obedience through fear. It was a perfect killer. It did not simply roll over for a tiny, unimpressive human with a sarcastic mouth and an inexplicable amount of confidence. VR call. He barked in his native tongue. Tear out her throat. The beast did nothing. Xel'Vok's eye twitched. Evelyn made a sympathetic noise. "Oof. That's got a sting." Tom, still scribbling in his ever-present notebook, added, "This does seem to contradict your species' claims about superior control over the creature." Xel'Vok wanted to rip both of their spines out. Instead, he pointed a claw at one of his warriors. "Send in another one." The warrior hesitated. "General, if one is already submitted, it is possible that—" "I did not ask for your opinion." Another set of doors groaned open, and a second VR call stalked into the chamber, even larger than the first. This one had scars along its flanks, remnants of a dozen hard-fought battles. Its blood-red eyes locked onto Evelyn, and it let out a thunderous snarl. The first VR call, Evelyn's VR call, perked its ears and stood. Then, to everyone's horror, it stepped in front of her. Xel'Vok's mind reeled. This was impossible. The beasts did not defend. They hunted. They did not form attachments. They did not. "Ah, buddy," Evelyn cooed, scratching the first VR call behind the ears. "Are you protecting me? That's adorable." The second VR call hesitated. It flicked its eyes between its kin and the human, its snarl faltering slightly. Evelyn took a slow step forward. "You're not actually as scary as you think you are you?" The new beast growled. She crouched slightly, lowering her posture, but keeping her gaze soft. "See, the problem is my species already figured you out thousands of years ago." Tom, now recording audio, added, "If my calculations are correct, this is roughly the equivalent of a Neanderthal discovering a nuclear submarine and deciding to poke it with a rock." Xel'Vok snapped his claws in his face. Silence. But it was too late. Evelyn took another careful step forward, her movements deliberate. "You think submission is fear. But that's not how pack animals work, is it?" The second VR call, this massive, genetically perfected nightmare of claws and teeth, let out a low huff and lowered its head. Xel'Vok's soul left his body. The beast bowed. Tom let out a low whistle. "Well, that's 2 for 2. The Zyvaran warriors in the room stood in rigid disbelief. Some looked horrified. Others were watching with something close to fascination. Evelyn gave the new VR call an experimental ear scratch. It let out a pleased rumble, closing its terrifying crimson eyes. She turned back to Xel'Vok. expression infuriatingly casual. I think I'm starting to see the problem. Xel'Vok's claws raked down the arm of his throne, the metal screeching in protest. Asterisk, there is no problem. Asterisk. Evelyn ignored him completely. See, my species domesticated wolves a long time ago. Those terrifying apex predators that ran in packs? The ones that humans tamed, trained, and turned into adorable fluffy companions over the course of a few thousand years. One of the Zyvaran warriors, the same one who had hesitated earlier, let out an involuntary hum. Xel'Vok snapped his gaze to him, seething. You will not listen to this nonsense. But the warrior, ignoring him, took a hesitant step forward. You claim that humans have experience with bonding with creatures like the VR call? Tom nodded enthusiastically. Oh, absolutely. It's why we have dogs. They protect us, work with us, even love us. Humanity didn't just conquer nature. We befriended it. Xel'Vok's patience snapped. Asterisk, asterisk enough. Asterisk, asterisk. The first VR call growled. Xel'Vok, a literal warlord of an empire spanning dozens of worlds, flinched. Evelyn clicked her tongue. Wow, that was embarrassing for you. The chamber was too quiet. Xel'Vok realized, with growing horror, that his warriors were no longer looking at him. They were looking at her. A human. A weak, unimpressive human. And yet, the most dangerous creatures in the Zyvaran Empire had submitted to her. Some of his warriors exchanged glances. Quiet but telling. The old ways had worked for centuries. Fear had always been their greatest weapon. But now, standing in this chamber, they were seeing something stronger. Something better. Evelyn clapped her hands together. Well, this has been fun, but I think we've successfully proven that you're doing this all wrong. Xel'Vok bared his teeth, furious. You think one trick with my beasts will change anything? Evelyn smiled. It was not a friendly smile. I don't think, she said simply. I know. And the worst part? So did he. Xel'Vok had spent his entire life carving fear into lesser species. He had crushed rebellions, raised civilizations, and commanded warbeasts that could dismantle entire platoons with a single swipe of their claws. He had never known defeat. Yet here he was, watching a human scratch his empire's deadliest predator under the chin like a particularly well-fed house cat. The chamber was painfully quiet. His warriors, his elite, battle-hardened, bloodthirsty warriors, were staring at Evelyn Carter the way one might stare at a deity who had just descended from the heavens and started handing out free snacks. It was intolerable. And worse, Xel'Vok could see the questions forming in their minds. Asterisk, what if humans truly understood strength better than we did? What if trust, not fear, was the greater power? Asterisk. It was blasphemy. It was heresy. It was deeply, deeply unsettling. Xel'Vok growled, trying to regain control. You think this trick means anything? My forces stretch across the stars. My empire. Evelyn cut him off with a wave of her hand. Blah, blah, blah. Galactic domination, supreme power, fear me, tiny humans, yada, yada, yada. Honestly, do you guys have a script? Because you all sound the same? Tom adjusted his glasses. I think they workshopped their villain monologues together. Maybe have a club. Evelyn nodded. Oh, definitely. Like a Conqueror's anonymous support group. She cleared her throat dramatically. Hi, my name is Xel'Vok, and I compensate for my insecurities by enslaving warbeasts. Xel'Vok's entire body stiffened with fury, but before he could explode, something much, much worse happened. One of his warriors, an old, scarred veteran named Corvesh, let out a single, sharp bark of laughter. It was a tiny sound, barely more than a breath, but in the deafening silence of the chamber, it might as well have been a gunshot. Every Zyvaran froze. Xel'Vok whipped his head toward the offender. Did you just laugh? Corvesh immediately snapped to attention, but something in his posture had changed. Asterisk, asterisk, a crack in the foundation of fear, asterisk, asterisk. Evelyn, ever the opportunist, seized the moment. Oh, see? He gets it? She gestured to Corvesh. He's realizing that humans aren't weak. We're just different. And different isn't the same as lesser. More warriors shifted uneasily. It wasn't outright defiance. Not yet, but it was doubt. and doubt was a far deadlier contagion than any battlefield wound. Xel'Vok snarled. You speak as if your kind has already won. Evelyn smirked. I mean, I have two of your terrifying murder wolves, and they're both listening to me instead of you, so I don't know. Feels like a win? The first VR call yawned, curled at Evelyn's feet like a particularly oversized dog. The second was watching her with something alarmingly close to adoration. Xel'Vok clenched his fist so hard his claws cut into his own palm. He could not kill her, not now, not after this. His warriors might follow orders out of habit, but their belief in him had been shaken. If he struck her down now, it would not be seen as power. It would be cowardice. He hated that she had maneuvered him into this position. Xel'Vok exhaled slowly, forcing his fury into something cold and controlled. What do you want, human? Evelyn didn't even hesitate. A partnership? The chamber reacted to that. Some warriors flinched, some frowned, and some, like Corvesh, watched with genuine curiosity. Xel'Vok narrowed his eyes. You propose an alliance? Evelyn shrugged. I mean, I could just keep embarrassing you until your entire empire realizes you're kind of bad at this. But I figured I'd be nice and offer an alternative. Tom chimed in. Helpfully, our species has a long history of making former enemies into allies. Usually after proving we can kick their asses first. Xel'Vok's jaw tightened. He despised everything about this conversation, but there was no denying the undeniable. This single human had done more damage to his rule in 1 hour than any enemy fleet had done in a decade. And worse? She was right. Xel'Vok had spent his entire life believing fear was the greatest weapon. He had ruled by it, lived by it, but now, staring at his own warriors, his own beasts, choosing this human over him, he realized with something dangerously close to dread that maybe just maybe fear had never been strength at all. He had been playing the wrong game. Evelyn stretched. So, what's it going to be? Keep pretending you have control? Or actually evolve as a species? Xel'Vok inhaled sharply. Then, to the shock of everyone in the room, he nodded once. A simple movement, a small concession. But it was enough. Evelyn grinned. Knew you had a brain in there somewhere. Xel'Vok snarled. I still despise you. You'll get over it. The chamber, once thick with tension, felt different. Not warm, not friendly, but changed. The VR call let out a low, contented rumble. And for the first time in centuries, the Zyvaran Empire took its first step towards something new.